y'all awake?
Yeah.
Full
Yep,
bellies?
yep.
It's okay. We got a bunch of books up here to start hucking at you if you fall asleep, so it's all good.
So, I'm Laurie Shelby.
We need the clicker.
We don't have the clicker.
Don't trip on the books.
I know. Last year, I had this same problem. But thanks for letting me come back, and this time I bought a friend. So, I'm Laurie Shelby with Tesla, and with me is Jen Barnes.
My
You
name's
can
Jen
introduce
Barnes.
yourself.
I'm also with Tesla.
And she
We don't
is-
dress alike every day.
Yes, runs our Human and Organizational Performance group, along with some others that you met yesterday from
Tyler,
Tesla as
Kelsey.
well. Kelsey and Tyler. All right, so we're going to talk to you about how you sneak and design in human and organizational performance into your systems. So with that, clicker.
Yep.
All right, does this quote, when something is important enough, you do it, even if the odds are not in your favor? Does this quote resonate with any of you? Raise your hand if this resonates with you. You don't have to be from Silicon Valley to make this resonate. Just a few, really? Okay, well, let me tell you, you being here, being part of our community of learning for human and organizational performance means our odds are not in our favor. We need everyone in here to be focused on how we drive this change. And, you know, our boss, Elon, has pretty much taught us how to drive, and we know that together, as a group, we're going to go against the odds. We're going to turn this ship. We've been doing it for 29 years here, plus 30 for others. Today is the 40th year that I have been working in environmental health and safety. I started, no surgery.
You know, you all just lost me $50 because she bet that she could get applause before we were done. Damn. All right.
Got to pay up. Yeah.
Keep a tally.
But it's so important that we are a group that needs to stay together. We have to do the impossible, right? But we can do it. Just like Elon's going to the moon, going to Mars, build our electric vehicles, AI, we're going to get this done. So we're in this together. A rising tide raises all ships, right? So now that you've come, you have to keep coming back, and we all have to help each other. So that's what we're here today, is to give you, what we're doing that has helped us move human and organizational performance through our operation. So at Tesla, we do the impossible, just like we're all going to do now, with changing societal culture about safety, about quality, and how we can move human and organizational performance into the way we work. So Tesla is working towards sustainable energy. We're not just a car company, right? We also are a solar company. We are now in a robotics company and also in AI as well. So we are going to do the impossible together. We're going to show you how we're doing the impossible with human and organizational performance. So just, we mentioned I was last year, and we showed some of these, wrong slide. I skipped one. I'm going to go back, but I was here last year. And some of these statistics have greatly changed in 1 year. This is how fast Tesla moves and how fast we all need to start moving when it comes to integrating human and organizational performance. So last year we had Tesla had about 94,000 employees. Now we're about 130, it says 128. We've doubled the number of superchargers that we showed last year. We had half as many, yeah. Ford and GM are super happy about that too, and all electric vehicle owners. And this year, or last year, if you looked at all of the vehicles and solar we installed, we eliminated 13.4 million tons of CO2, which is almost double what I told you last year. So, you know, the world is changing and we've got to keep up with it. Now I can go to the next slide. Are you controlling me? That's it. Thank you. I'll give the control. I'll have to give you the control. So when we were here last year, I wanted to see how many people are new to this group. So stand up if you have not implemented human and organizational performance yet. If you have not even started. All right.
Everybody help these people.
All right, now you need to go see everybody who's sitting down. That is fantastic. I mean, last year we had a lot of people who hadn't started, so I'm super excited. Now, like, stand up if you started. We have on the slide, you can put the slide back up. Where you started on your human performance journey. Did you start by focusing on leadership and getting your top leaders engaged and your organization? Who started there? Stand up if that's where you started. And there is no wrong answer, right? So,
we're making you stand because you just ate lunch, but by the way, this is all by design.
What? Yeah, this is, keep you going from lunch. What about if you started with looking at your policies and your procedures and maybe re-evaluating those? Did anybody stand up there? Or did anybody start there? Stand up. Anybody start there? What about training? What if you said, did a lot of people just, go in and do training for their supervisors, their leaders, their workers? Did people start at the training? That's where I started at Alcoa. We started a lot at the training side. Good, a lot of people. All right, well, like I told you last year, probably don't remember, at Tesla, we started at every single one of these areas all at the same time. That's why we call it plaid speed, which was just going as fast as we could. So we started in every single area. It's not linear, right? It can be linear if you want, but in order to really jumpstart it, because we were constantly changing, we started in every area. And what we want to talk about with you today is the area of building it, human and organizational performance, into your tools and into your technology. And we're going to talk to you about the technology that we've built to manage and collect, analyze our event data, and how we've built human and organizational performance, HP concepts and tools into that.
Can I have the clicker? Thanks.
You can probably do the clicker better than me.
Well, we'll see. Error is normal. All right. So everybody's familiar with these concepts, black line, blue line. And so we just wanted to kind of go over like our why. So when we talk about black line, blue line, one of the kind of earlier misconceptions when someone's beginning their journey is this notion that we're trying to correct the blue line, right? So we actually use this slide right before learning teams or when we're talking to managers just to really highlight that our learning opportunity is between the blue line and the hazard, right? We want to know where that work is actually happening and where that hazard might interface with our workforce, right? So where do we need the safeguards? We don't want to necessarily build the safeguards along the black line because what if we're not traveling down that road that day, right? So that's why we use this. Again, you all can beg, borrow, and steal. This is all for, if it works for your org and you want to use it, great. So anyways, that's kind of part of our why. And let me go ahead and I'm going to brag a little bit about, so this is what, oh goodness. This was,
See,
I
it
clicked
is
it once,
sensitive.
Joe. I clicked it once.
It's a very sensitive clicker.
It is. It's like me. I'm sensitive. Okay. Oh my gosh. That was one click. Okay, one click. You saw it. One click. No. There we go. Okay, it's maybe a little delayed. All right, so when we talked about this, this is a multi-pronged approach, right? This is every little bit that every changes. We have an amazing psychological safety, global leader in our company, Amy Reynolds. I'm gonna give her a shout out, and she always tells us a little plus a little plus a little equals a lot, okay? So even though you see on the screen that we're gonna start talking about systems and tools and then learning and then our output, really, Really where it starts is with leadership. And so we're lucky to have Lori as our VP, right, of EHS. And she's a hop thinker, she's a hop believer, she's a hop supporter. Did that go out for a second? And
well,
then,
actually, there was an when I interviewed for my job, and I got to interview with Elon, I asked him if he knew what HOP was, and he didn't, and then I explained it a lot based on the vehicles. You know, we build our vehicle to fail safely, and he started getting it. And just recently, I talked to him about full self-drive and how only thing you're seeing in the media is all the negative press of people who are injured in full self-drive. And he's like, why aren't they talking about the lives we've saved? Like, welcome to our world.
exactly. And then what Lori does, for those of you who don't know, when she's interviewing someone for a new position, she sends them a Todd Conklin video, and she will ask about that video in the interview, and they will discuss human and organizational performance. I'm just going to say HOP from now on, give myself a break. And so it really is starting from the beginning. And so what she did, and those of you who know Shahika and love her dearly like we do, Shahika is our senior manager of our systems and tools teams for EHS, right? So she is now at the helm of that. So a couple things we'll get into. So you see on the screen MyEHS and Take Charge. MyEHS is kind of like our overall reporting system that captures our EHS data. We're not going to necessarily go into that. It's massive, it's vast, it's way too long for this presentation. But Take Charge is one of the modules in that system, and it has been super effective, so we're going to share about that. Then we're going to talk about learning, and so we have a couple operational learning approaches. And yesterday, who was lucky enough to see Tyler and Kelsey talk about learning teams yesterday? Awesome. Can you give them a round of applause? Woo! Looks like I don't owe her $50 anymore. Evens, right? So, but we're not gonna go into the detail because they covered it so beautifully yesterday about our learning team program. But we also have another form of event learning. It's another approach called our SAFE tool. So we're gonna go over that. And again, they're just ideas to help you. However you can plug this in your journey. And then we're going to talk about reporting, right? Like, so what is it we focus on? What is it we give our leaders to empower them and our decision makers and stuff like that, right? So it really is from design to reporting. And I'm going to try and forward here. The suspense. Okay, so so I mentioned MyEHS. This is our overall. We're not going to get into the details, but I want to just share with you a few things that we've done system-wide. And I do have my notes here just to make sure I don't forget anything. But one of the main things is about the language. And people have already talked about that, right? About changing language vernacular from investigation to event learning or operational learning, right? Instead of an incident, we talk about events, things like that. When we're talking about anything being inadequate, we're talking about procedures. We're not going to talk about people in that manner, right? Things built into the system are based on your event severity. It'll tell you which event learning you are either required or recommended to do. And sometimes it's both a learning team and a SAFE analysis, which we'll go over. And again, the Take Charge, right, that module, it really amplifies the voice of the blue line, which we'll see in a second. And then when, reporting, again, out of the tool, focusing on ASTM, life, our highest, risk activities. So for time's sake, we're not gonna go over, we're only gonna cover EHS tools, but our worker feedback is driving improvements constantly. So even in like our design and assembly, our Model Y is now built safer because they changed the order of operations based on worker feedback. They changed the order of operations of when they attached the bumper because they were attaching it too early and it was causing employees to still have to reach, right? So it was creating an ergo risk. And we actually won an ergo cup just by changing the order of operations of when we attached the bumper, right? So, and that was driven all by workforce feedback, right? So enough about design and deploy. We'll talk about, this thing is funny.
We get like 50 errors a day, so I think we're fine.
Why don't you just talk about ASTM, Lori? It looks like the system wants to.
Yeah. So as part of our MyEHS system, we still collect all of the OSHA data that we have to collect. But Tesla is a global company. And asking someone outside of the U.S. to really do OSHA, China's not going to give you much. You'll get some from Europe, but most of everything's going to come from the U.S. So we switched to something called ASTM 2920, and this is a standard, ASTM standard. It was actually developed by Steve Newell, who wrote the original OSHA Blue Book, for those of you who have been 40 years, like me, doing that Safety 1 stuff when we were just trying to figure out how not to record something. ASTM really gets to severity, and it's very global. So this is something we've changed to, and our system captures that. Now, if any of you want to be part of a roundtable for ASTM, you will get a Tesla hat. But come see me or
First dozen people to give Lori, to commit to the roundtable, to commit to the focus group. You give us your contact information, and we've got about a dozen hats to give away, and we got stickers after that and everything. So we are going to bribe you to participate. Yes.
I mean, it's still a
Shamelessly.
lagging indicator, but it's a better lagging indicator. I don't know. And we'd love to get more people engaged in it. Keeper of the clicker. All right, so I think I mentioned this. Some of the good things about ASTM, it really does focus on more severe incidents. We now track this. We make ASTM visible for our leaders. Nobody in Tesla really knows any of our OSHA numbers except pretty much the EHS folks. And it really changed the mentality and the way that we talk to our leaders. Now, Jen mentioned one of the modules in our MyEHS system, which is a system, obviously, we built ourselves. We did try to use a lot of external systems, and they just, they didn't work for the speed of Tesla, the way that we worked. And we were lucky enough to have an IT group that we were able to use to build our system, and they're continuing to build it. So this module, one of the modules is called Take Charge, and it's all about the blue line. And this is a very simple, tool where employees are empowered to provide suggestions, corrections in the tool. It started as a safety tool, and now has become what we call a Spark tool. So it's safety, productivity, accuracy, rate, and cost. So now all different suggestions go into the tool. So the tool it's initiated. We'll show you how it works on the phone, or you can put it in the system. It goes to supervisors. And if somebody wants to anonymously submit something into Take Charge, they can. The supervisor, it'll go up to a supervisor in that chain that has at least 20 people. So it still keeps the anonymous. And as an aside, when we see a department that has a lot of Take Charge anonymous submissions, we see that as a coaching opportunity from a HOP standpoint because of the psychological safety trust, right? And it's just an indicator, and then we can go help that department. We also have recognition assigned. So when you get a Take Charge, it's tracked and it's acted upon. If it's not acted upon within 2 weeks, then it hits our dashboard, and we help people and assign collaborators. And we give shout outs for great ones.
They said it would work.
I'm so glad you have the clicker. And this is an example.
We're going to show you how quick it is to enter a Take Charge.
So this one you can do it on. This is the main landing page for MyEHS. You can click on Take Charge there. You can use your phone. You can use a QR code. It pulls up a very simple question. You put it pre-populates your name and your department, so that's all easy. You can put it in a category. We are looking at AI to help us on this. You can simply write what your suggestion or finding is. You can take a picture a couple pictures of it and load that into the system. And then I think you can hit submit. And then it goes up into MyEHS where it's tracked, and we'll show you how we track it later. So it's a very much blue line employee engagement tool. This is just another view of the dashboard that we get. In this case, Rob works for me. If he submits a take charge, I can see what he's done. I can also see across the globe that take charge is being used across the globe. How, once again, it's very, very important that there's recognition back to people who provide the take charges. So this is something that's built into every facility's practices.
And if you notice just on the screen here, we have a group called collaborators. So if someone's maybe not in a direct reporting line or whatnot, and you need to, someone needs to talk to maintenance or whatnot, then you can add collaborators so that they have visibility into the take charge as well.
So far to date, take charges across 38 countries, and we've got, gosh, actually year to date, we're over about 600,000 take charges. This is the coolest part, and this is why our leaders love it and why we lead with this leading indicator. As take charges go up, our incidents, our ASTM numbers are going down. And when take charges go down, the incident to ASTM goes up. And we've been able to show the correlation to our leaders, and that's why it's become the indicator that everybody asks about. And if you read our impact report, see our earnings, calls, anywhere where you're talking or seeing Elon, he's talking about take charge.
And also, you were going to say something else about the impact.
I was.
Yeah.
Do I owe you $50 if you remind me?
Okay, we'll remember in a second. Anyways, okay, so this is an example of learning from take charge, okay? So I'm not up here saying, now that we have the system, we answer every single suggestion perfectly. That is not what happens in reality, right? So this is an example from our Fremont factory, and the picture on the left, you can see there's a robot cell there. It's a welding cell. And you can see the beautiful, nice wall that they put up, right, with the nice aesthetic pictures and everything. So they do tours sometimes, and people can walk down that lane, and then they do still want to see those robots, right, because robots are cool. I mean, let's all face it. So unfortunately, though, the operators and the associates that have to do the manual cap change on that robot work on the other side of that wall, okay? So when we installed the wall, we installed a delay of 3 to 5 minutes for them just to walk around to do like a 30-second cap change, okay? Not great. We didn't know that at the time, though, right? We were trying to kind of keep unauthorized personnel from kind of running through there at shift change. Again, we wanted the aesthetics for the tours. There were reasons, right? So we had an amazing, luckily, we had an amazing safety specialist watch as an operator was walking around the wall, right? And she comes to the cell, and she goes to open it, and she realizes she doesn't have her lock on her for Lotto. And she's sitting there, and you can tell that she's weighing her options. So what is she weighing? What are the factors she's considering? Right, like downtime, right? She's calculating the downtime. Okay, it took me 3 to 5 minutes to walk over here. It's going to take me 3 to 5 minutes to walk back, and then another 3 to 5 minutes, right? So she's weighing on this. Now, if she and I were out on a Friday night having some beers, and I was like, you know what? Would you risk your life to save 10 to 15 minutes of downtime? Like, doesn't that sound fun? Maybe get crushed, right? Well, that'd be cool. Of course, she would say no, right? But you put people in the context, right, of their job and the time pressures and all of the factors that we all study and try and unpack, and it's a lot harder to make that right decision, and we did not help her make the right decision. So, unfortunately, in this incident, she did go in. Fortunately, our awesome safety specialist, who's very, very hot-minded, some of you might know him as Tyler Campbell, watched her go in and said, hey, let's brought her out, said, hey, can we talk about this, right? Turns out this group for the last couple of weeks had been entering take charges into the system saying, hey, we need a faster way to get through this wall. You know, making us walk around, because already it's actually causing a few minutes of downtime, right? So we found that there had been these take charges. We decided to talk to her instead of fire her, right? We decided to kind of drink our own Kool-Aid in this moment. And we learned that the team was asking for this. So what did we do? We put in a door. It's badge access, right? Only the authorized people can get through it. It's fine, right? And in fact, now it's even quicker to do the cap change because they don't have to go around the wall anymore. So now what was taking 3 to 5 minutes, because we were able to learn from putting her in a bad situation, we saw that there had been some recent take charges. Now these take charges had been answered, right? They'd been acknowledged, but they just hadn't been actioned to put the work order in for the door yet. So when we were able to see that this worker was tempted like that, we can't necessarily say she was the only one we put in that position, right? So anyways, this is just one example that not all take charges are slam dunks, not all take charges get remedied immediately, but we can tell when a workforce is actually like begging for something. And in this case, it was a learning all around, and we learned, hey, we need to prioritize these take charge. We need to, that's why this is so new, we didn't even get it in the presentation about the regenerative AI that we're starting. Our EHS professionals at this moment are back at the factory teaching take charge how to, identify safety, how to identify, now that it's grown into quality, cost, et cetera, right? So we're hoping that in time we can actually have the people who have the skills to determine risk, people like you in this room who have that subject matter knowledge to hopefully kind of teach our computers kind of how to recognize the things that we do in those kind of vague online submissions sometimes. Anyways, that's just one success story. And it was definitely a learning opportunity. Okay, thank you. I forgot you guys are doing it. Okay, so the HOP tool that gives the voice to the blue workers is that take charge, right? And so it works because, and you can see on your screen, it aligns with the HOP principles. I'll make sure I'm right. So it aligns the communication with leadership, right? It opens up those channels of communication. As Lori said, if things don't get answered, they get escalated, and then they get escalated. Again, you can add collaborators, so it's not, none of these are secret, right? If you want something anonymous, you can, as she mentioned. And identifying those opportunities for HOP coaching, I mean, that's not necessarily a strong leading indicator safety-wise, at least we don't have that data support it yet, but it is a leading indicator that there's a gap, right? That there's a gap at least in safe communication. It aligns with our core operational values that learning and improving are essential. So I don't even know if we would know the number of improvements that we've made. Anyways, I don't even know that we'll chase that metric because I think it might be impossible to count. And then we can systemically reduce, the lag time. We have that response matters into our thinking. That's what we were thinking when we designed that tool. So again, super simple entry. We made it as simple as possible for the workforce, and we put the heavy lifting on the supervisors and up to make sure that they get routed, make sure they get action, and make sure they get answered. Cool? So does everybody see 5 HOP principles on the screen? Anybody? Do you see 5? What? 6? What? No. Okay. So this is our way of introducing. For those of you who weren't here last year, we don't need to talk about the 5 HOP principles. We know you know all about them. We've all been studying them for years. But we want to introduce you to the newest member of the Tesla HOP principle family, Safeguard Save Lives. So we added a 6th principle at Tesla because we wanted to prioritize it and highlight it, and we wanted to insert safeguard knowledge, and we wanted to insert that into the conversation from the get-go. Okay, so like one of the things that we do is we teach HOP actually for our new hire onboarding, and specifically in Fremont, we do 45 minutes of HOP principles, and because we've added this 6th principle about safeguards, it gets them right out of the gate. We're already talking about safeguards. We're not talking about, behaviors and things like that. It changes the conversation, right? So next slide, please.
About preventing everything.
Correct.
We know we're going to have safeguards in place.
I guess okay, perfect. So, like I said, we have 2 event learning approaches, right? And we're not going to go into what learning teams are because, again, Tyler Kelsey. But when we have that conversation about safeguards, not only do we cover it in our learning teams, but we also cover it in our SAFE tool, which stands for, if you don't mind forwarding, Safe Analysis for Events. SAFE. Isn't that clever? Yay. But these 3 questions that you see on your screen, they're familiar to you. What safeguards were in place and worked? What safeguards were in place and didn't work or were not effective? And what safeguards did we not have in place that we could have helped mitigate or prevent, right? So we did not make this up. So the whole point of this is you don't have to make up everything yourself, okay? You don't have to beg, borrow, and steal. That's why we're sharing this with you. And these simple questions, again, drive that conversation about safeguards rather than behaviors. So depending on your event severity, it'll tell you whether or not you need to do a SAFE analysis or whether or not you need to do learning team. That was awful, awful Freudian slip. Learning team, or both, right? Okay, so I think we're gonna get into demoing. Yes, so this is the SAFE tool. It's super easy. So I'll just walk you through the little video. So as you can see, this is our MyEHS system again, and you go into My Events, right, because every event has a learning tab on it. So you open the event you're looking for. It could be a near miss, could be actual, doesn't matter. And they all have this learning tab, and this is where we have your templates, and you can choose either a learning team or a SAFE analysis to fill out, right? Choose from the drop-down, and really you put some names of people who might be able to answer future questions, and then there's your 3 questions right there. What was in place worked? It also has contributing factors at the bottom, right? So we can collect latent conditions and error trap data from our workforce, and they don't have to know any hop language. We just have the contributing factors in their categories so that they can free text and tell us what's going on. And we don't have to send them to some 4-day workshop about DOE manuals and a long list of error traps, right?
And we don't have the 5 hows or 5 whys or...
Right.
This is what we collect.
Right.
And analyze.
So what happens if you're not in a position where you can build something new, right? So we'll go to the next slide. So what we did is we did a global effort to talk about our essential safeguards, AKA critical controls for some of you, right? About our critical hazards, right? We're not going to create drop-downs to track every single safeguard that exists. That would be a very, very long drop-down. But for our critical hazards, we wanted to get those essential safeguards that needed to be in place, right? And what we could do is once we had that list, we could insert it into already existing tools. So this is just another example of a tool. It's not global. This is a tool designed by our awesome rock stars in Australia, and it was designed for leadership engagement, okay? So as you can see, let me see if the questions are up there. As you can see, the first round, right, it's like any walkabout questions, right? They're open-ended. Hey, tell me what you're working on, et cetera, right? Very much in order to drive that conversation, okay? Then, if you go to the next slide, if they're doing a critical task, that's where these questions get a little more targeted, and that's where they can actually select from the essential safeguard drop-down. What was in place? What was working? What wasn't working? You know, tell us, like, did you know how to verify the effectiveness of it? So yes, we are asking them to kind of pinpoint those yes or no questions. But if you preface it with an actual conversation, right? And you have that, hey, you know, I see your team's missing this. Did you guys know that you're supposed to be, you know, wearing this? Or did you guys know that this was part of your essential safeguard list, right? If it wasn't known, what a great education opportunity, right? And if they can't demonstrate the effectiveness of it, then having it there is great, but how do we actually know that we're being good or whether we're being lucky, right? So what we do then is we're not going to show you the dashboard. We have a million dashboards. But that actually tracks into a dashboard, and again, it's focusing on safeguards. So this is just us taking the safeguard list, the essential safeguard list, I should say, and just inserting it into an existing tool. All they had to do was change their drop-down, right? So that's one other way. So we're kind of like hashtag sorry, not sorry, but we're sneaking all of this stuff into tools just to make these little differences, because a little plus a little plus a little equals a lot, right? So again, it's changing the conversation. Next slide. So why it works. Why do these work? Because they change the conversation, right? Both SAFE and LEAP, they're focusing on whether or not those safeguards are in place. It's focusing on safeguards over behaviors, right, which support HOP principles. The learnings are shared globally. And I have to tell you, once a month, we have a global life call that was mentioned in the learning team side breakout session yesterday. And this is like other than I think town halls maybe, we'll tell Lori that our town halls are higher attended, but no, this global life call every single month gets hundreds of our EHS people on there. And what it is it's going over kind of like a 15-minute debrief of a learning team of either a near miss or an event that our directors actually nominate for global kind of education and awareness. And so people can call in, it's super interactive, they can ask questions in the chat. These are all EHS professionals, so they might get technical, they might get granular, they want to know, right? So we share those learnings, but what we always share are those 3 safeguard questions, right? We don't talk about the behaviors, we don't say, oh, the safeguard that was missing was training, right? Oh, they should have known better. No, they developed that with a HOP coach, so that we can actually glean learning out of that, and then key takeaways. And everybody just loves those presentations because they learn so much, and then they're able to share it with their perspective areas. We also have alerts and everything. Again, this is not a one, we don't have one effort. This is several different areas that we're attacking this at. And at the thing at the bottom there, I think someone said it's not about when to stop work. We all know that expecting people to stop work is really, really hard, right? So it's a matter of when to start work, okay? And that's really what we want to make sure. Next slide. So how does that look on the output, Lori?
So through our MyEHS tool, this is an example of our leadership dashboard. This is what goes to all of our senior executives. Anybody can actually look at it. It's not like locked down for just senior executives, but this is what I use when I meet with them. It starts with take charge. It shows how many we had per month, if we were meeting our target, which we're doing, every employee is 1 per quarter, and that is tracked. That is actually linked to performance as well, so we've connected that. And then we track if they are responded. We want the response rate. So, just submitting and not having a follow-up and response will be a disaster. So we also track the closure rate of those as well. And then we also track our corrective actions. So the take charge actions, any of the leadership actions, event actions, learning team actions, all are part of one action tracker. And we track, we want 100% by the end of the year of anything that's high risk, and we can code high, medium, and low risk. Yeah, you could play some games, but we look at the data on a regular basis, and we're pretty good with AI. We're gonna get better, good AI, not bad AI, so that we can get better looks at this. But we track closure of high-risk actions, but we track all action closure as well and are looking at 90%. We don't track on-time closure, okay? We don't do that. We don't have the workflow to do it, and many times you have to change dates, but we do watch those so that they don't skip over, years, because there's some things that take a long time, right? We recognize that. So we track that. And then at the very bottom, we track our life events. So we have life actuals, which, you know, are fatality or life ending, life altering. And we have life potential. Many people may call them FSI. We track those as well as our ASTM rate that I mentioned to you as well. And then we've now look at any life actual or life potential with an injury gets a learning team. So we track that those occur. And any life potential, many of them are IFEs, right? They're such good learnings. Those have to have the SAFE analysis done. So we track that as well. And for all incidents, we verify there's at least one action in the system. So, I mean, it's these three things. It holds our conversations. We're able to talk about human and organizational performance, about learning, safe, all when we're having these conversations with our leaders.
And I'm going to just say one more thing about the take charge data. So not only do we know that if there's a high level in a certain group of anonymous submitted take charges, if we see the take charge rate, submission rate declining, then we can't prove yet that that's a leading indicator, but for us, we're kind of treating it as an informal leading indicator, right? Like if we are getting less engagement, then we're going to be worried. It's like when your 2-year-old's quiet in the next room, you know, it's like that makes you nervous. So we'll hopefully report back next year on how that's going for you too. So
well, it's actually a guide to you how your psychological safety. I mean, how safe do your employees, do everyone working feel with bringing up suggestions and putting those out there?
Yeah.
When that drops, that is a sign, right? And that has to be acted upon. Yeah. So it's a very good point. We actually did win the National Safety Council Runner-Up Innovation Award for Take Charge, and we're happy to give you everything that we have, including the code if you need it. I sound like Elon, right? We'll just open source it. Yeah, just take it all. Take it all. So I think there's one more slide. Yes, so our key takeaways. I have on one contact. I dropped the other one in the bathroom. So,
do you want me to do it?
So our key takeaways are, obviously, we're inserting hop-minded people into systems that we develop. Okay, this system was not just developed by an IT person. Shahika was hired to design the system, right? So it's hop-minded in our designing of our systems and our tools. So that's one key takeaway. The other is we focus, obviously, on our ability to fail safely. We know that, that we're going to make mistakes, so the SAFE tool, we don't expect, we try to design out. We're never going to, stop the hierarchy of control and design out, but we know we've got to balance that for fatality prevention, which is our goal. And then we set goals based on leading indicators. I do have ASTM goals, so that is a lagging indicator, so I'll come clean in honesty with all of you. But our focus with our discussions with our leaders, it's so engaging on Take Charge. It's so powerful when that's what all they want to talk about, right? And even at a shareholder meeting was really cool. Yeah. And our investor meeting, I was able to present ASTM to all of our investors across Tesla, and they were, they had a lot of questions, so I took that opportunity to also talk to these ESG companies that they're asking the wrong question. How many of you have to fill out an ESG survey? Right, yeah. Well, they always say, what's your TRRA? They don't ask you about your programs, if your processes, anything about how you've implemented, HOP into your training, or into your programs. So we're talking with those rating agencies, because that is one area, like Wall Street is where we've got to hit, okay? If we're gonna...
Lori's on a mission, in case
I'm
you
on a
couldn't
mission
tell.
to go to Wall Street, yeah. So S&P 500, I'm coming their way to start asking better questions about safety. Because if they ask it, then your shareholders ask it, and then it gets to your board. So we're going to attack it both ways. So setting the right indicators, and then finally...
Enable learning from closest to the work.
Something about learning, yes. We are totally a learning organization, and that has changed the way all of our events and when they happen, how we've learned from them, and how we set corrective actions. And then the last slide is just one. About a month ago, we had all of our global leaders together, and we were talking about HOP. And as we were talking about HOP, about all the things we were doing, we had a graphic artist there who helped us create something called our destination postcard. Like, where do you want to be with your HOP journey? I mean, I know it's never done, but it's great to have that destination postcard. And we took this term from the book Switch by the Heath brothers. It's not out there for sale. I don't even know them. They went to UVA, so I'm not really. I went Virginia Tech. But this is just a picture of our journey, pretty simple, of where we are going to be. Not if, but when.
He was just listening to us of where do we want to go, not what are our limitations today, not what's the current snapshot, any of it. It was like, no, let's dream big. Let's see, where do we want to be, regardless. Like, if we had no parameters, where would we want to be? And he sketched this, and we always talk about how HOP helps you see things through a new lens, right? And so anyways, we just wanted to share with you that this was for fun. One of the things, this is Lori's passion project too, bottom left there, is she wants to know, are we safe or are we lucky, right? She wants to develop a metric around that. Once we do, we'll let you know what that is. But anyways, we just want to share.
We're working on it. We're working on it. Those 3 questions are going to be the basis foundation. But, knowing, if you know Shahika, if anybody does, she's holding me to many more questions. Yeah. But thank you. We'll be happy to share more. Any questions or